Hey, what's up everybody? Welcome back. Brandon again. Today I want to talk more IPF stuff because it's been a hot topic of debate as of late. Last week we talked about the Wilks coefficient. We talked about some proposed rule changes, including that of minimizing the bench arch. We also had USAPL Raw Nationals this past weekend, which will determine who goes to IPF Worlds. And today we have Mark Bell announcing that all of his SlingShot and Strong products are now IPF approved for the low price of $253,000. Now, I posted something like this on my Instagram account, which I'll link below in the description box. If you want to follow me, go for it, so you can tell me that I'm stupid or look at my week lifts in a smaller format than these YouTube ones. But I had a lot of comments on there, and I thought it was worth talking about because when it comes to the IPF, it's always people that are very pro-IPF or very anti-IPF. Now, for me personally, I'm kind of somewhere in between. I'm very pro USAPL. However, I think they don't make always the best decisions. But that being said, one of the worst decisions I think that they make, and they're kind of forced into it, is adhering to a lot of the IPF rules and specifications. So you that are international, that compete more on the IPF level, or those lifters from the USAPL who compete on the IPF level, you probably have more pull, more of an opinion. Again, I'm just a guy on the internet sharing mine, but hopefully you guys can share your take and at least give me some words of encouragement or words of shit talking, whatever really floats your boat in that manner based off what you feel on this particular subject. But that's what the internet is for, sharing feels and telling other people that they're wrong, right? Okay. So for this, for those that are unaware, the IPF typically has a list of approved gear and equipment that you can only wear in their meets, meaning that if it's not on their actual approved list and you have a pair of wrist wraps from another company, you can't wear those. Same thing goes with belts, singlets, all sorts of other things. So this would lead a lot of people to assume that gear has to meet certain standards to be on the approved list, which really isn't the case. If you take a look at their approved specifications in terms of how thick a belt has to be, or the size of a knee sleeve, or the material that makes up some of these products, it's all pretty simple and pretty basic. And in fact, almost every single piece of gear that's made adheres to those specifications, but the brands that are on there have paid an exorbitant amount, as demonstrated by Mark Bell, the self-proclaimed meathead millionaire, in order to actually get that approval in place, which kind of grinds my gears a little bit because there's great companies out there making great products that might just not want to make the same investment in terms of just getting their gear on the approved list. And I can definitely see why. Now for this too, I think a lot of people will come and bring up the fact that this is just part of the sport progressing, and any entity that's trying to become legitimate typically will sell off sponsorship, so to say. So I had some people on my Instagram post mention some of the professional leagues around here, like the NBA has Nike, the NFL also has Nike, the MLB has Majestic, which will soon be changing over to Under Armour because Under Armour recently won out that new contract. But you have these branding of uniforms and a lot of marketing comes into play, which I totally understand, but not from the perspective of comparing it to powerlifting, which is really even debatable if it's a true professional type sport. I mean, let's be honest, you can make more money streaming Twitch and playing Fortnite than you could if you're one of the strongest drug-free lifters in the entire world. There's just no money in the sport right now, and for some of these companies to be pumping in this huge investment, I don't really think it makes sense necessarily, which again is just my opinion, and that's what the internet is for, talking about how other people are spending their money. So, I mean, for this investment for Mark Bell, $253,000, which is only a 4-year contract with the IPF, it seems way too high compared to how many people would actually buy the equipment and compete in the IPF at the same time. Because chances are, if you really like the equipment and you don't compete IPF, you would have bought it already. But for those of you that compete in the IPF and maybe see your favorite lifter now competing in IPF Worlds in your strong knee sleeves, even if you're that motivated to say, hey, you know what, I really want to be like Brett Gibbs, who wears SPD stuff, by the way, but I like this particular lifter, I want to buy the gear that they buy, I don't know if there's enough volume of people to kind of make up for what that investment was worth. At least in my opinion. Again, I don't see the back end, the books, the margins that they're making, but I would just be very hesitant to do so, which is, again, one of the reasons why I think Pioneer didn't see fit in going forward. They'd have to sell a ton of belts. So I mentioned Pioneer, which is, by the way, my favorite belt company, shameless plug, but they were the first ones to really bring the cost of getting stuff approved to prominence because they told everybody exactly how much they were charged. So I believe the exact quote was something around $190,000 for a 4-year approval for their lifting belts and wraps, which is astronomical for a small local US company in my mind. I think Mark Bell's company might have a little more reach and more products, or maybe they might sell more stuff. But again, I think it's just astronomically high priced. And it doesn't really seem fair in my opinion, especially when I'd be really interested to see the books to see how much some of these other brands that are already IPF approved are actually paying, and if that's current or not. A part of me tells me they signed some lifetime deal way back when and got in at the ground floor and didn't have to pay as much. And I say that only because if you take a look at some of the products that are on the approved lists, are stuff that either aren't made anymore or no one really wears, or really are subpar when you compare it to some of the other equipment available. So it really tells me in the back of my mind that there might be something more fishy going on. And the bottom line for me, why I really don't like this deal, is I think it sets a really bad precedent. So when Pioneer posted those numbers about a year or so ago as they were going through the IPF process, I was really hoping that would open people's minds to say, whoa, this is way too much money, and hopefully no other businesses would really move forward with it. Now that Mark Bell has gone forward with it, it kind of lets the IPF know that not only is this acceptable, but people will pay, and maybe in some instances, people could potentially be willing to pay more. So I think in a sense, I can see how this could help the lifters because you're now offering them a wider variety of equipment to choose from. But in the long run, it might come back to hurt the lifters, as they're the ones that are probably going to have to be incurring the cost to pay for these through the price of products potentially raising over time. And I wouldn't have as big of issue with this if I could actually see some of the benefits going to the lifters, which in my case, I don't think will be the case. Maybe at the very highest level for some of the world meets like IPF Worlds, maybe they'll put more money into the stream, which never seems to work anyways and is always loading, and the commentary is also very poor. USAPL Nationals did a good job in their primetime session and even just keeping the stream up and going, but I haven't seen the money be reinvested anywhere, and I would like to see that. Some of the other people brought up some comments again on the Instagram post about some of these other professional leagues and legitimizing the sport. And again, I see a point to a sense, but not as it compares to powerlifting, because when you take a look at the NBA, who has, let's say, a contract with Nike for the exclusive rights to their uniforms, that would be like the IPF agreeing to one provider and one manufacturer only for their singlets. And oftentimes when you take a look at the NBA, all of that gear is then given to the players within the league. So Michael Jordan didn't have to pay for his jersey. He didn't have to pay for his shoes. That was all given to him by the team and the NBA. And that's not the case in powerlifting. Powerlifters have to pay a lot of their own way, their own travel, their own room and board. If there is some kind of prize money at the end of the day, oftentimes it's just helping to reimburse some of the fees they incurred, and it's not a money-making sport. So again, I don't see that money being reinvested to the average lifter, so to say. Now, obviously, if you're just some Joe Schmo who competes once or twice a year at a local meet, you're not going to see it. But I still would like to see more stuff being invested into spreading the sport and helping the lifter and give back to those who have given so much to the actual community, if you will. So that's really my take. Again, it's kind of conflicting on my end. I'm happy for Mark and his team, but at the same hand, I think it's going to hurt the lifter. And someone else brought up a really good point that I just wanted to throw in that I never really considered, but the IPF and their big push about being a drug-free powerlifting federation, taking $250,000 from someone who is a well-documented and is not afraid to talk about his past drug use and maybe even current drug use, just seems a little hypocritical to me. But hey, you got to do what you got to do in order to get it done, I guess. Let me know your feelings and thoughts below in the comment section. In the meantime, as always, thanks for watching and stay big.